I'm happy to be able to talk today about my current favorite research topic, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and gambling, and the evolving overlaps. And that is also why I'm a bit nervous, because whenever I love to dive into a new topic, it is something that I'm not a real expert on. And yeah, this is true for today as well. It's a very new phenomenon. There aren't many experts around, and yeah, I'm trying to give you whatever I know and give you an overview over that. And yeah, that is making me a bit nervous, but let's see. So the plan is, if I can move my PowerPoint, that would be good. To set the arena. So these are new phenomena, and I want to give you a brief overview over the different, yeah, let's say, topics that we discuss. I mean, blockchain is super right, cryptocurrencies is super right, gambling, of course, everybody knows here, gaming the same, but it's also super right topics, and you can imagine blockchain being similarly right. And I devote, well, 10 minutes for this. So don't expect too much, but it's really just a very brief overview over what this is. And then, since this is an interactive symposium, I want to go and give some live immersion into the crypto gambling space. So we will move from the PowerPoint to my browser. And actually, I want to show you two different kinds of, one is financial betting, and the other one is a complete betting that is taking place via blockchain, completely decentralized. So there is no central operator anymore, but you effectively bet on the blockchain on a poker game. So I want to show you these two examples as very new phenomena in the field, with cryptocurrencies being huge already. The gambling on blockchain is quite new and quite small, but it might evolve, and it might evolve very, very strongly. When I started 12 years ago, everybody was talking about online gambling being in such a high growth phase, and it could be that this gambling via blockchain is the same today, so that we will see in 5 years, and everybody talks about it. It must not be, but it could be. And what these kinds of challenges that might bring this up for both regulators as well as for public health is what, yeah, everybody of us is, yeah, I would say, should consider, and that is what we all want to discuss in groups, so that we have discussion groups to make this a real interactive symposium and a workshop. And then in the last element, as Sylvia mentioned, we want to reflect on the discussion. So I'm very happy to have Adele with me, Dr. Adele Movanou, to help me gather all the elements of the discussion, and we will reflect on the most important parts, and also allow for comments and questions from the audience. So let me give you some sort of definitions what we are talking about. I mean, gambling, oh, sorry about this. I'm trying to move my Zoom away from my own PowerPoint. Anyway, so gambling, everybody knows about gambling. Gambling is a wager of something of value with a chance to win something of higher value. And the element of chance is predominating. There's a predominating test for this in the law that says, okay, in poker, chance element is dominating, so it's gambling. But there was a long discussion if this is actually true, and might also be that the skill element is dominating. But the main point is that there is a huge element of chance, and that you wager something of value with a chance to win something of value. Usually it's money, and of course it could be crypto money. So cryptocurrency, often also called a token or a coin, and that is something of value that is usually based on a blockchain. It could be that it is something that is intrinsically valuable, something like Bitcoin, that just has a value because other people demand it, and there is a market price for it. Or it could be something that is actually a token that is tied to something else, like an asset that is not on the blockchain. For example, a US dollar could be represented by a token on the blockchain, so that one of these tokens is always redeemable for one US dollar. That is a so-called stable coin. Then we have a cryptocurrency that is tied to something else that has value, and that is why this token then has value. So if you gamble with a cryptocurrency, it's still gambling, although you're not directly using US dollars, euro, or any other fiat currency, how it is called. Blockchain is a bit more complicated. A blockchain is a decentralized transaction database that is updated in regular intervals and saved on many computers and servers across the world, and that allows users to transact peer-to-peer instead of through an intermediary. So if you think of a centralized system, let's say you want to send somebody else a bank wire. You go to your bank and issue, please send $500 to person A. And then the bank is conducting this transaction for you. But if the bank doesn't want to do business with you or with the person B, it can always say, no, you can't send the money. In a peer-to-peer system, it's different. You can always send the money or the tokens from person A to person B without any intermediary. And that is what blockchain allows. And you see that if there is no centralized system in the middle, there is an intermediary is missing, there is a central authority missing that you might want to approach if you want to ensure regulations are met. So that is very interesting from a regulatory point of view, but it also allows for a lot of innovation. So for example, Visa as a payment or MasterCard, credit cards as payment layers are quite expensive to use. The merchants pay about 3% in fees for that. So every small transaction might not pay off to use. Blockchain could solve this. Just one example of how this could be innovative. And what we know from innovation is that it's usually the, let's say, edgy cases that usually go first with a new technology. And here we see it with gambling. So there is another thing, which is cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency trading. And that is very close to gambling, as we already know from research. So cryptocurrencies can be purchased with fiat money like US dollars. They have a limited supply, and the more the people want to buy into it, the higher it is the price. Most prominent example is Bitcoin. It's by now nearly $60,000 in value. A couple of years ago, people called, oh, this has no value at all. It will go down to zero. And 3 years ago, we were at $3,000 maybe. Now it's $60,000. Price has gone up. More people want to buy into it. More and more hedge funds want to buy into it. There are more institutions buying into it. There's a limited supply, so there is something of value for Bitcoin. Many exchanges offer to trade those cryptocurrencies. Some are very honorable, others are not. It's a very new field. Since it's not money directly, they do not have to adhere to the same regulation and standards like traditional exchanges. So it's more like a startup scene where some have grown up and others still are in, let's say, in an edgy scenario. What we know from research is that trading these cryptocurrencies is strongly associated with problem gambling. And we also know that gamblers have a higher participation in crypto trading compared to non-gamblers. So it goes in both directions. Those who trade cryptocurrencies are more prone to have gambling problems and to also to gamble in the first place. And those who gamble have also a higher likelihood to be participating in crypto trading. And it is somewhat similar to high-risk stock trading. And you can have behavioral patterns that are very close to gambling, especially chasing losses. So you bet that the Bitcoin price goes up, but instead it goes down. So you double down on your investment, you buy even more. Oh, it goes down further, you buy even more. You chase the losses in the hope they will make up for it with future winnings and come out even. So this is something that is similar to gambling, although it is not legally defined as gambling. There are some elements that increase the similarity, and that is if you do not just buy one Bitcoin, but you use a leverage on it. So instead of buying Bitcoin for $100, you use a leverage of 100. So you effectively buy for $10,000 with your $100 in capital. And if the price moves 1%, you double your investment. But if the price moves down 1%, you lost everything. So that what is a high leverage. You deposit just $100, but you trade 100 times the actual market movement. And cryptocurrencies are already very volatile. So that is super risky, I would say. There are boni and rewards being paid out by exchanges. So that is also similar to gambling companies. And we have trading competitions, also similar to gambling. We have something that is even, let's say, more fancy, and this is decentralized gambling. While the other part is you go to an operator and you trade cryptocurrencies, that is still a central operator, the exchange you can approach, and you can make them adhere to regulations, and regulations are kicking in, and they are becoming more and more honorable and, well, let's say, good businesses in general. But it is still a long way. There is a different thing that is decentralized gambling, or decentralized any kind of application. Gambling is just one application. And here it is gambling that takes place directly on the decentralized technical infrastructure. And it's based on so-called smart contracts. Smart contracts is computer code that automatically executes on a blockchain. For example, a computer code for a poker game, or a computer code for a roulette game, a computer code for a dice game, or for any other kind of game you can imagine. So the good thing about it is that this code is, once it's on the blockchain, it's always open. So it's open source. You can prove that it's fair and the random generators are correct. That is also very transparent. You don't have that with centralized operators. You usually also have higher payouts because the cost of operations are effectively zero. But you also have lack of compliance, and you don't have any third-party payment processor that you could approach to say, oh, please try to stop the payments to operator A, B, or C. So it really is tough to regulate without such a central operator, and you obviously have no player protection. So if we classify that, you have a regular online gambling website that accepts, let's say, Bitcoin for gambling. So it's completely centralized. It doesn't matter if it's US dollar that they accept or a Bitcoin. It's completely centralized. If you have a smart contract based through a regular website, the access is centralized, but the offer is decentralized. If you have a smart contract based gambling offer that is built and hosted on a decentralized infrastructure, that is something that we do not see yet, but might be in the future. It's completely decentralized. So this is just a very, very brief overview of what we are talking about. And yeah, we've written a book, my colleagues and me, last year about it, Blockchain, the Digital Economy in North America, available through Columbia University Press, in Europe through Agenda Publishing. If you want to read more about it, because this really feels more like the topic is so wide and rich, you could fill a series of lectures on it, and so it's tough to have just one workshop on it. So I really want to show you how it looks like in practice. So with a live immersion, we will now visit the largest crypto exchange out there, Binance.com. It's aiming at retailers and offers crypto trading products with, for example, a very high leverage. So they advertise, for example, to use 125 leverage and to open the account in under 30 seconds. They also have a feature that is called a battle. So you battle between two different crypto traders. And that is what we will be looking at now. I will shortly end my presentation here and open the one for my browser so that we can actually do some betting on it. Wait a second. Nearly there. That's also making me nervous, all these different technical things. So I hope you can now see my browser. And yeah, this is BTC USDT perpetual on Binance futures. So you see the price over time. Here it is touched nearly $60,000. We are now at 57,500. And I have the opportunity here to predict the price move and win points. So we can bet here now for 250 USDT as the smallest size. That is so much we will buy Bitcoin with this $250. And it costs us 5 USDT, so $5, because it has a leverage of 50. And this position that we open in Bitcoin now, if we go long, that is, we buy, means that we win when the price goes up and we lose when the price goes down. But this is a special game. We play against somebody else who opens in the same moment a position on the different cryptocurrency, which is called ETC, Ether Classic. And we win if we do better than this other guy. But we only win points, while the betting outcome that we now have currently 0.04% of profit is actually USD. So it could happen that we both lose money, but we lost less than the other one, and we win points. These points, obviously, because it's not gambling, cannot do anything for you, except they give you a ranking on a leaderboard, which make it a gamified element, and there are trading competitions, and if you win them, you could also actually win some money on it. So now we lost. We won still 1 point because the loser still wins 1 point, and we actually won 1 cent because the price of Bitcoin didn't move much. The interesting part is we do a second run here, and again we go long with the smallest size here possible. The interesting part is that this means we trade cryptocurrencies for 1 minute. So usually investment advice says you should buy into an asset and wait a couple of years, then have a look at it and maybe sell it. Maybe you even wait a couple of decades. Here we play for 1 minute. So if we think about the gambling definition and the predominance of chance over 1 minute, it's completely chance. There is no skill element in predicting the next 1 minute move of the Bitcoin price. There might be a skill element in predicting it over the next year, but there might, I doubt there is anybody who can safely say I can predict the price over the next minute. So that makes it very close to gambling, but effectively it is not gambling. This is offered by Binance. Binance is, as a largest cryptocurrency exchange, already worth 100 billion. Let that sink in, 100 billion. That is how large this industry grew, and they make this money from trading fees. So if we, here for example, we are currently losing again, even if we have a slight win, and it says, oh, we won some dollars, oh no, we currently won against this other guy, but we still lost money. And I can of course share my results via social media. It means that even if I win, I might not actually win because there are all these trading fees involved, and they win on every such trade where the player or the investor, how you might call them, actually gives away, no matter if they profit or not. So that is one example. I also would like to show you a second example, and this is a decentralized poker game. Here we have the opportunity to bet with the so-called cryptocurrency BNB, that is also from Binance. And You can use it on Binance for example, paying the trading fees. That is where the value comes from. And they claim to actually use the revenues to buy these tokens back over time. So that is where the value comes from. One BNB is currently worth about $650. And you can bet here on poker hands. And the thing is that this is a website, there is a central access, but the whole betting takes place in a decentralized manner. So on the blockchain. So we have this small item over here, which is called MetaMask. I hope it is also showing in my shared screen, where I have direct access to my wallet through my browser. And this wallet holds some BNB here. And I can use these BNB to bet on the next poker hand here. So we bet 0.01 BNB, or about $6.50. And it will now do a transaction for us on the blockchain with obviously some fees, of course. And this takes time. So this is not like a centralized operator where you instantly have your result. It's still new technology. It means it is completely unstoppable in the sense of nobody can intervene with that transaction. There's no intermediary whatsoever for this transaction. But the downside is it might take a while until the betting outcome. Oh, it is already there, but it took about 10 to 12 seconds and we lost here. We can do one more because it's rather fast. Sometimes it takes up to a minute. So that is not the same comfort as with a traditional centralized operator. But the point is that the odds might be much better because there are no costs to it. There is no central operator for this, except instead there is what they advertise as a token. This is an interesting part. That token is called poker, and the losses of the players of this game all go to the owners of the poker token holders. The token holder is somebody who bought this token either on an exchange from somebody else, or 80% is handed out to those who actually bet on this poker game. So the more you bet on this game, the more you own the game itself. So that makes it a very interesting concept. So there is no real third party that directly profits from everything, but it is more like a distributed ownership of this particular computer code that is running on the blockchain and can be accessed through the web. So that is a decentralized gambling that is still very young and not in no competition with the centralized operators yet, but might be very soonish. I want to go back to my slides, show you one more slide and open up the discussion. So how should we as society approach these new phenomena? We will now split into two different kind of groups. The first group will ask the questions, which public health challenges emerge from such new products? Can there be player protection measures in such nonsensical gambling applications? Will offshore cryptocurrencies introduce consumer, investor, or player protection measures? Do we need to disseminate more knowledge on the potential risks? And if yes, how? Just a few questions that you might want to address, or you might have different questions. And the idea is to really discuss what these new phenomena could mean for society, and here especially for public health. The other kind of group will do the regulatory challenges that might emerge. How can we regulate such autonomous applications? How to regulate offshore crypto trading businesses that offers products that really resemble gambling? How to prosecute tax avoidance, money laundering through decentralized gambling applications? So also another interesting question. There might be even more questions that you might want to raise, but also want to discuss. So we are now splitting up in these groups, and Adele and me will follow the discussions. And after about 20 minutes of the discussions and another 10 minutes that we need to digest the discussions, we come back in the auditorium and discuss the main results from these discussions. I thank you so far for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ingo, for, wow, this is such an interesting presentation. Now I will, we have created the groups, and we have fairly a good number of people in each group. Some of you will land in a breakout room where it's already mentioned that it's gonna, on the board, that it's gonna be for the question around public health, and some of you will get the regulation related questions. So, on va maintenant ouvrir les salles de discussion, et quand vous allez arriver là, il va y avoir vraiment l'indication sur le tableau blanc si c'est la question de santé publique ou la question sur la régulation qu'on vous demande de discuter. Et encore une fois, je vous rappelle, on aimerait que vous choisissiez une personne dans votre groupe juste pour rapporter les propos sur le tableau blanc, ce que vous aimeriez communiquer à nos conférenciers ici pour qu'ils partagent un peu vos idées et vos recommandations. So I will ask you just to designate one person in your group to be the person who will convey the ideas on the whiteboard for Ingo and Adele. So without further ado, I'm gonna just send everyone by magic into the breakout rooms. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to now resume the workshop. Our colleague Ingo and Adele will be joining us in a few seconds. Nos collègues vont nous rejoindre dans quelques secondes pour partager avec nous vos réflexions et commentaires. Peut-être je vais laisser la parole à mon collègue Martin French pour nous parler un peu de la prochaine activité et de la séance un peu de demain, un survol de demain. So I will leave the floor to Martin. So Martin, you can maybe just present what is our next activity today, and maybe an overview of tomorrow's schedule. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks so much, Sylvia. So first of all, thanks everybody for participating in the discussion groups. I think that this is an experiment for us, so we're interested in hearing also from you how they went and figuring out technical glitches along the way. Ingo and Adele are going to summarize the comments, but also I think that there's going to be lots of opportunity for discussions if your questions or key points that you made in your discussion groups don't get addressed. There's going to be lots of chance for discussion. At other parts of this symposium, and so for example, coming up next, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the question and answer session for the asynchronous presentation. So many great presentations that have been posted up. You can access these presentations either on the Grenadine platform or you can just kind of go onto the GatherTown platform. Here's a link to the GatherTown platform, and the speakers are going to be some speakers are going to be present talking about the great work that they've brought to this conference. So I'd really encourage folks to go and check that out. And the GatherTown platform really admits a sort of one of the things we were interested in and found appealing about it is that it admits a sort of milling about where people can connect. Sylvia, je vais dire la même chose en français, mais c'est peut-être que tu pourrais être plus vite.
Je peux
moi.
le faire. Okay. Donc, on aimerait juste vous annoncer que cet après-midi, en fait, à 3 heures, heure de l'Est, on a une séance de discussion et d'échange avec tous les auteurs des présentations qui sont en mode asynchrone, qui sont disponibles sur la plateforme grenadine, mais aussi vous pouvez aller les regarder sur l'espace GatherTown. On vous invite vraiment à venir discuter avec les collègues. C'est des présentations super intéressantes, mais aussi GatherTown nous permet de se retrouver tous. Si on a besoin d'échanger informellement, comme on fait d'habitude dans un congrès en présentiel, on pourrait le faire sur GatherTown, c'est incroyable. On peut se regrouper à deux ou en petits groupes et avoir vraiment toute cette dimension sociale qui nous manque, en fait, il faut le dire, en période de pandémie. Donc, on pourrait même virtuellement peut-être essayer de la recréer. Sans trop tarder, je vais juste passer la parole à Ingo et Adèle. I'm going to just pass the floor to Ingo and Adèle because we have 10 minutes to wrap up the session. So I'm looking forward to hear some feedback from those breakout rooms. And I apologize, je m'excuse pour les problèmes techniques. C'est tout un défi, hein. La technologie, ça va prendre plusieurs années avant qu'on devienne expert dans ça. So I apologize for any technical issues that may have arisen during our manipulation of the groups. Okay.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for making it here through all the technical difficulties, through the discussions, through the presentation, and now onto the wrap-up discussion. And Adèle and I have observed the Jamboards where the group discussions have taken place. And yeah, with just 10 minutes left, Adèle, what do you think are the main public health challenges that were discussed?
Yes, it's very interesting because lots of Jamboards I've seen they began to interact and to discuss the fact that we don't understand very well the concept. We don't know what is the definition of the problem, so of the activity. So how can we regulate it? It's not considered gambling activity, so participants wondered how it can be regulated when there is no law that applies to these activities. They have another thinking about it's decentralized, so you can't regulate it, and it's antagonist to the possibility of regulation. You regulate who you regulate, and we don't really know who it is, the person of the group of the person, and in what country, and what are the laws that apply to this person, to this enterprise. And before doing anything, they were talking about, shouldn't we first know these activities better? The participants were able to highlight the issue of being able to really regulate it if we are not able to have enough knowledge. So they wondered how to position ourselves in terms of public health and on what to base one's decisions. It's a bit like being given a problem to solve without being given all the information. That's the problem. And after that, they had some ideas, some solutions, but it's for after.
Super interesting. Yeah, a similar observation that there is this public health and regulation part is so intertwined, and the public health challenges are effectively the reason for potential regulation. But the question when it comes to regulation is where to regulate. That is a very important part that was discussed. And could there be an international regulation, because it doesn't make sense to have a national regulation for such kind of activities? Or would there be a way to offer licensed, more safe ways that guarantee a minimum standard? Or if the decentralized currencies are such a perfect tool to dodge all the regulation, could there be a way to regulate the banks as the on and off ramps for it? So the regulation part here is with a lot of question marks, and with a lot of how, also a why. I mean, the question is also, why should we regulate these activities? What is the rationale? And here we have this public health reasoning. But yeah, as you mentioned, we don't really yet understand the phenomena. So how could we jump into the topic and have a call for action without knowing what's actually going on? So yeah, it's interesting.
The participants had some ideas to better understand the phenomena or the activity. They have the idea to make targeted prevention and to go and question people in treatment on the risk behaviors and how they are solicited, in fact, to better understand the phenomenon and its impact on the people who could be at risk. And another way from their point of view to better understand it is to seek this information from clinicians who are key persons to helping us better understand the phenomenon through the experiences of people in treatment.
I think that's a very good approach. I mean, we've seen the similar way of understanding the convergence between gaming and gambling, and that gaming becomes more and more problematic in the sense of gambling problems instead of the video gaming problems that also exist and are part of video games. Obviously also a small part, and the gambling aspect is also only a small part of video games. But this gambling aspect really, it seems to have emerged into the research sphere mostly through clinicians observing that people have spent a lot of money on Candy Crush, for example, and saying, oh, I've lost so much money, I have a problem with that. So with these edgy scenarios and cases where something is not really gambling, but gambling-like, and here is cryptocurrency trading games actually that are close to gambling, it might be a very good approach to have the same way of dealing with it and gather the knowledge from those people who know best, and that is those who gamble or play the most with it, and filter it through the clinicians. I really like that idea.
I want to share with you an idea, and I would know what you think about it. They have some participants. A group had a concern emerge in terms of public health. They were asking, wouldn't talking about this phenomenon create publicity for this activity, and therefore create the opposite of what we want? Because if we say to people, take care, it's a manner to make publicity and to be conscious to the phenomenon. So what do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's a very valid argument. Similarly, with tobacco, for example, if I remember myself being in I think 14 years old and being in school, and people were talking about the risk of smoking, for me it made it more attractive back then, because it was forbidden and it is unhealthy, and let's go maybe dive directly into it. So it could be a similar point, but I don't think that it is cryptocurrencies and trading of these are so far away from the public knowledge that we should keep it in the corner. Because if we have Elon Musk tweeting about Dogecoin like every other day, and he's like the most followed Twitter account nearly, people know about it so much already. I think it's not a good strategy to put it into a corner and hope that nobody notices. I think that's too late. But yeah, I agree. There is some sort of, oh, I didn't know about it. Now I'm more curious. Now I look into it, and it could backfire to bring this into public discussion. Yeah.
And I think I have 1 or 2 minutes more. I will go with this one because it's very interesting. A group found a compromise between a law, a legislation, and to do nothing. The idea was to allow us to reduce harm without putting in place legislation too prematurely, because we don't know the phenomenon. We know it, but we don't understand all about it. They had the idea to put in place preventive measures, light preventive measures, to avoid the laws that are too restrictive. What do you think about that?
I fully agree. First of all, as you say, and as a group discussed, there is not enough knowledge to really dive now into laws. And the other thing is that it might hinder actual beneficial innovation. I mean, blockchain and cryptocurrencies is such a big topic. Just like video games, it's a huge topic, and the problem aspect of it is small. There are problems. We shouldn't deny it. We should target them and see what we can do about them. But we shouldn't hinder the whole industry around blockchain and cryptocurrencies with laws just to protect this one aspect. That would be really premature, and especially since we don't know so much. So these light measures, I think, could help a lot. And maybe those legitimate exchanges want to put something like this into place, where you could ban yourself from trading, for example. All the things that we know from gambling operators as well, that are very light and won't stop the problem, but will reduce it a bit and not hinder all the other people. So I think that's a good compromise, at least for the time being, where we really want to gather more knowledge about this topic.